G'day guys and gal. There is not many things quite like the pure destructive force of a space marine, so when you times that by 1,000 to create a chapter, it's no wonder that entire worlds have fallen to their might. However, a chapter is still only 1,000 marines and a world can be billions of people, with millions of fighters. Even a space marine would struggle with that ratio. Sure, a Great Crusader era space marine legion could absolutely dumpster our modern day Earth, orbitally bombing our military bases before deploying thousands of demigods of war led by a Primarch onto the surface, which would then wipe out our armies within hours, but could a mere 1,000 marines do the same, especially if the goal was to conquer the planet while keeping the infrastructure and population intact? It's an interesting question and more complicated than you would think. Before we get started, the internet is a big scary place, but it doesn't have to be with the help of today's sponsor Surfshark VPN. We're back in action for December, baby. I'll cut through the fluff. What is a VPN and why is Surfshark VPN better than the rest? A VPN is a software that allows you to mask your IP and then transport it anywhere in the world, allowing you to then use the internet of that country anonymously. This is great as it means you can access larger streaming service libraries, access previously blocked websites, or just protect your identity during normal browsing. I personally used Surfshark to watch the AFL Grand Final when I was in Berlin, and as an Australian, streaming service libraries make me cry with how shafted us Aussies get. So it's an awesome product for me personally. So why Surfshark over the rest? Well, the UI is super easy to use, one click and bam, you are connected. It's also reliable and has a massive range of countries to choose from. Surfshark isn't just a VPN though, they also offer an antivirus, an alert that tells you if your data is breached or leaked, as well as a search software that helps you keep protected on the internet. The best part is that by using my linking code MAJOR, you'll get up to 6 extra months free. Cheers to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Today we'll go over the question, could a single Space Marine chapter really conquer the Earth? Let's get into it. I'm not going to spend 5 hours analyzing the combined arsenal of the entire world's military because I'm not that autistic and everyone has better shit to do. However, the world has about 27.4 million active soldiers with dozens of millions more in reserve, not to mention all you gun-nut Americans out there. To accompany that world army, there are about 73,000 tanks, 53,000 warplanes, 21,000 war helicopters with hundreds of thousands of armored vehicles. There is a shitload of firepower on our humble blue planet, and despite it not being a united force, you can bet your ass everyone's going to team up real quick when the drop pods start launching. For a Space Marine Legion, this would be child's play. Earth would probably join the Imperium during the diplomatic stage, as someone like Fulgrim or Guilliman would be sent here to achieve diplomatic compliance. The show of force of an entire legion would probably also go a long way, especially if a country like North Korea tried to refuse compliance, thus an orbital strike wipes out Pyongyang in one shot, making other rogue countries fall in line pretty quickly. However, a single Space Marine chapter with only 1,000 Space Marines and about 1 or 2 ships, combined with the fact that many Space Marines are quite unfriendly these days, would not have that luxury. Earth would resist. Here is how it would probably go. Earth would pick up on our various devices, such as telescopes or whatever the fuck we use, that a strange space anomaly had occurred at the edge of the solar system. That being the warp roof opening for the chapter's arrival. This would cause the United Nations to immediately meet and prepare their armies, as the anomaly would shoot out what looks like a massive angry cathedral ship. On the ship, Chapter Master Biggest Dickus of the generic Marines chapter see Earth as a stunning prize for the Imperium, fantastic infrastructure, culture, and genetic purity, not to mention a large educated population. He decrees that compliance must be achieved without crushing the world's infrastructure or population. Diplomacy would occur first, with the Chapter Master making contact with Earth, finding out that English and Low Gothic were more or less the same language. Biggest Dickus would talk of the Imperium, a united mankind, and a chance for Earth to become part of something epic. At first it would seem cool, however then Chapter Master Dickus would start speaking of dissolving all governments to put the planet under the rule of a single off-world governor. Then he would also talk about the heavy tithes that the Imperium would collect off Earth, about the huge surge of off-world immigrants and machinery that would arrive and decimate the world's environment, and suddenly the offer begins to go stale. The nations of Earth recognize the deadliness of the Space Marine chapter, but also begin to realize that it's one ship and only about 1,000 Marines or so. Dickus also mentions that they found Earth by complete accident, as various warp storms in the galaxy have kept it hidden. So if Earth was able to take out the generic Marines, then no other Imperials would ever arrive. With that in mind, Earth's nuclear nations fire a barrage of nuclear missiles towards the Imperial warship, As soon as the nukes power up, the Space Marines would know about it and all pretense of diplomacy would be off. As the nukes would fire, Earth's defenders would ambush Dickus and his Space Marine honor guard. The ambush would go poorly for Earth's soldiers, as even their heavy weapons were mostly useless against power armor. Many would die, and the shock of the Space Marines in combat would terrify many more. However, a few lucky shots here, a rocket there, and a few Space Marines would die. However, more importantly, the videos taken of the fight would serve to help Earth's defenders in the war ahead. Not many nukes fired would reach the atmosphere, as the battle barge would fire at them with anti-missile weapons as they were just leaving their silos, and even fewer would actually reach the ship as complicated and extensive anti-missile defenses would activate. However, some would, with the detonations rippling across the ship's void shields. It could actually damage the ship a fair bit, as evident when a nuclear bomb exploded outside the Alliance capital ship during the Great Crusade, causing minor but notable damage to a number of ships. Dickus and his surviving honor guard would teleport back aboard their ship and prepare for war. Step 1 would be to soften up Earth's defenses. This would be easy due to Earth not having any form of energy or void shielding. Hundreds of military bases and installations would get destroyed, and world leaders and generals were taken to secret bunkers to coordinate the war from safety. Every nation on Earth would mobilize their entire armies and reserves, with each country preparing their own strategy to defend themselves. The chapter would have no fucking chance of killing all of Earth's armies. A ratio of 27,000 to 1 is not very good. Even if we all charged at them bum-ass naked, eventually through sheer mass we would take them down, so they would need to do decapitation strikes, wiping out Earth's leadership and forcing a surrender. Now if the chapter really wanted to be ruthless, they could orbitally pound New York, Hong Kong and Paris into dust, forcing a surrender. However, that wipes out a fuckload of infrastructure and creates an entire world of resentful, hateful people who will rise up in the following decades. So Biggest Dickus would use their advanced tech combined with their tech marine skills to hijack as much as Earth's tech as possible, disabling a lot of Earth's technology while also locating various leaders' bunkers. Strike teams of Astartes would then begin drop podding or traveling to these locations, encountering heavy resistance, especially as the leaders discover that their locations are compromised. Storm Eagles, Thunderhawks, and drop pods would rain down, encountering a shitload of fighter jets like F-16s. Now obviously the Space Marine ships, including their own fighter jets, are superior to what Earth has, but in terms of numbers they would be severely outmatched, with thousands of Earth's warplanes in the sky. A well-placed missile could easily take out a drop pod. A couple of them could down a Thunderhawk, not to mention the anti-air guns that would be firing. Getting to the ground and establishing a ground presence would be challenging and costly, with many Astartes dying as they would have to repeat this process dozens of times. In many cases, they would be able to kill or capture that particular country's generals or leaders. However, in other times, they would need to withdraw as the resistance was too great. I want to make it clear that yes, a chapter could take out Earth at a moment's notice if they wanted to go full genocide mode, but if they wanted to conquer an intact and compliant world, then there is a steep price to pay. The weapons in Warhammer 40k aren't that much more hectic than what we have now. Bolt guns are just semi to fully automatic high-piercing grenade launchers. They are dope, but a group of 5 Earthlings using standard grenade launchers could probably match the stopping power of a Space Marine. Not to mention our rockets are pretty similar to theirs. Ceramite can shrug off a lot of shit, but our modern day Earth has some pretty fucking spicy armor-piercing weapons. Not to mention javelins exist and would probably be decent against Space Marines, and while we would have near endless soldiers, the Astartes chapter is super limited. I mean, check out the Ultramarines for example. This is the full size of their chapter. It has a few dozen rhinos, a couple jet bikes, Thunderhawks, helicopters and dreadnoughts. It's really not a whole lot. A couple of javelins and a rhino or a predator is down, a couple missiles and a Thunderhawk is down, a few armor-piercing rounds and rockets and a Space Marine is down. The chapter would have to be very conservative. Their first round of decapitation strikes would be met with limited success, as some leaders would be taken down at the price of a few Space Marines and vehicles. The chapter's main advantage is that they have a massive ship in orbit that is now untouchable due to taking out the Earth's nuclear silos, as well as hacking the shit out of Earth's systems. They could blind an area with a hack and then deploy Space Marines there for a special mission. But just taking out world leaders wouldn't do a crazy amount. New leaders would be chosen, different bunkers would have different leaders. The Space Marines would have to commit to a massive show of force to break Earth's morale, as we have already established that a complete wipe of Earth's armies is unfeasible. They would need to bait a massive force of Earth's soldiers, in the hundreds of thousands or even millions, to a particular battlefield and then completely humiliate them, showing how they stand no real chance. To do this, they would need to hack the area that the President of the United States is hiding, or they could do another superpower like China's president. This would cause a massive influx of Earth troops to converge on the President's area. in preparation for a massive battle. It would need to be a dominant fair fight, not an ambush, to show that on equal footing, the Space Marines were much more powerful. Around 800 to 900 Marines, backed up by dozens of Terminators, Rhinos, and Dreadnoughts, as well as Librarians to really spice it up, would go to each battle zone, with the remaining 100 to 200 Marines either being injured, dead, or on the battle barge. With only 800-ish Marines, Earth's armies would be aggressive, using fighter jets and cruise missiles to try soften up the Marines who would be entrenched in deep cover. The Space Marines would have very good anti-air that would intercept most of the jets and missiles, causing Earth's army to have no choice but to charge in. The Space Marines would need to hold their fire, acting suppressed and desperate. Then when the thousands of soldiers get close enough, a massive storm of smoke grenades get deployed, through which the Space Marines charge, chain blades roaring. They tear into Earth's armies, ripping them limb from limb at blinding speeds. The soldiers barely have time to open fire before their ranks are shredded one by one. Tanks are blowing up as dozens of whirlwind launchers wipe them out. At a similar time, the battle barge then orbitally strikes Earth's warships and reserve forces. While this is happening, elite strike teams are assaulting the president's bunker. As the dust settles and the mangled corpses of thousands of Earth's finest litter the grounds, a massacre that has been filmed and broadcasted worldwide by the chapter's hacking of all TVs and whatnot, coinciding with the president surrendering to save their own skin, Earth's morale would break and a surrender would be issued. In this scenario, only combatants would be killed, hence the resentment from Earth wouldn't be too bad. The only way Earth could win is if we were able to fire a nuke at this Space Marine force, or constantly force the chapter to engage in attritional skirmishes. Because at the end of the day, even if we lost 1,000 soldiers per Space Marine kill, that is a bargain. We have 27,000 to lose per Space Marine, so only losing 1,000 would be awesome. Not to mention that since chapters only have a handful of aircraft, getting air superiority would be really easy. However, at the end of the day, the chapter is led by genius commanders who are centuries old, and if the compliance was going very poorly, they would probably just say fuck this and pound our cities into dust. Overall, there is just no way I see Earth winning this unless we're able to smuggle a nuke on board their ship, which worlds who are resisting compliance have actually tried to do before. The lesson from all this is if an advanced culture with gigantic warships and 7-foot tall demigods of war come knocking, just bend over and let them have their way with you. Unless it's the Emperor's children, then you better clench as hard as you can. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then subscribe. I have something special coming for you guys and gals at 600k, so the sooner we get there, the sooner you get it. Join the Discord for more memes and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.